Let's start with this, though. Phil Fontaine, whom I'm sure you both know, former head of the AFN, the Assembly of First Nations, himself a victim of the residential school system, recently had this in the Globe and Mail. Phil Fontaine points out that there are now 3 times as many Aboriginal children in state care as there were at the height of the residential school experience. There's also rampant poverty on reserves, high suicide and incarceration rates, inadequate housing, and long-standing boil water advisories. The words of apology that were spoken by the Prime Minister were, quote, powerful, and the people were willing to accept that as a sincere apology. But they also expected that actions would follow those words. Jennifer, to you first. In the 7 years since Prime Minister Stephen Harper made the apology, very dramatic on the floor of the House of Commons, what actions do you think towards reconciliation that are of significance have you seen the Government of Canada make?
I think we have a huge gap there. I think that they did create expectations, the words that were said, they were powerful words said, but I don't think those expectations have been met. And I think Indigenous organizations across the country, I think other Canadians are concerned that those words weren't lived into in terms of real policy change in this country. Archbishop,
do you see expectations having been created but not followed through on?
Yes, I think the language I hear around the apologies, both with respect to the government's apology and the church's apology, is whether or not the apologies are empty. And I think the criteria clearly is, okay, we say we're sorry, we've made an apology, what's the action plan?
Do you think the federal government's apology to this date so far has been empty?
I think it's been very weak.
Weak,
it's
okay.
not given survivors of the residential schools the kind of hope that was raised on the day the Prime Minister made the apology.
How about the church's reaction to the apology?
My own reaction the day of the Prime Minister's apology was that I was grateful that the other leaders also spoke on the floor of the House of Commons, and that members of the Aboriginal communities were actually able, on the floor of the House of Commons, to speak as well. I think that was what made the day as historic as anything the Prime Minister himself said.